Hey guys, how's it going? So today I am going to be doing a review of Rage 2. Rage 2 is a first-person open world kind of a looter shooter, even though it's not really a looter shooter since there's no loot ever. So it's not like Borderlands or anything like that, but it's an open world first-person shooter. Now, as always, I will start with the good points about the game, and then we will move on to the bad points about the game. So, first off, good points about the game is that it is quite action-packed in the places where there are actually action. So, when you are in confined spaces or anything like that, then yeah, it's actually pretty damn action-packed. I really like the fact that you can just storm into a building or storm into an area and just absolutely destroy everything. Obviously, the guys are shooting back at you, or if you're going up against a bunch of monsters, they're constantly against you. And you can just like jump over them, kill them that way, stab them, shoot them, blow them up. It's really quite an action-packed game when you aren't riding around the desert, just basically wasting time. And the game has pretty good humor. The humor in the game is pretty good. There's a couple of times that it gave me a giggle at least, so I would pretty much call that a win, since I don't really laugh all that easy, but this game at least made me giggle a couple of times, so that's pretty good. The voice lines and voice dialogue are pretty funny most of the times. Then the other good thing about the game is that it is open world. It's actually open world. It really doesn't limit you to go wherever you want. You can just basically head into a direction and from pretty early on in the game, right as soon as you go out of the initial tutorial area, right from then on you can pretty much go wherever the hell you want. So that's always important in a game that markets itself as a open world game, for it to actually be open world and not just be semi-open world. And yeah, that is where the good stuff ends. That's all of the good stuff that I have to say about the game, to be honest. I thought about complimenting the game's graphics, but to be honest, the graphics aren't anything special, to be honest. There's really not much to compliment. In fact, in a lot of the scenes, the graphics is not very good. I mean, I will try to put some examples of that on the screen right now, and just like look at the textures, look at the objects. If you look close, you will see it's really quite bad graphics, to be honest. So yeah, I don't really have anything good to say about the graphics. I thought about it, but yeah, no, this game's graphics really doesn't do anything special. There is really nothing to compliment in the graphics department at all. So let's start with the bad stuff in the game, and there's quite a lot, to be honest. First off, biggest bad point about the game, biggest criticism of the game is that it is of course developed by Bethesda. Now, I really don't need to explain anything further than that. You should know what kind of a company Bethesda is. Bethesda aren't a good company. It's not a company that you should support with your money, ever. So that is the first bad point about the game. It is a Bethesda game and they don't deserve your money. Second bad point about the game is that it's kind of not actually open world. I know I said that it's open world, but that comes with a caveat, and that caveat is the fact that the world is gated by levels. So the entire open world map is divided into various levels. More or less, the starting area is like level 0, and then the further you get away from the starting area, the higher the levels go. So there are certain points, like when you right when you start out, there are certain points in the game where if you go there, a single bullet will kill you. Like literally, the mobs and the enemies in that area are so powerful, a single bullet will kill you. So you can't really call the game open world if you have a world where if you go there you will just die instantly and then you will respawn at the starting area again, since you only restart at points that you have captured or towns. So if you haven't captured any towns at the beginning, then you just restart at the beginning. So the fact that the game is open world, yes, it's open world, meaning you can go anywhere where you want, but if you actually do go anywhere where you want, you will just get fucking murdered. So yeah, that's another thing about the game which I don't really like. They could have just made it so that you can basically deal with anything in the game as long as you are skillful enough. Like for instance in Far Cry 4 and Far Cry 5 actually also, for instance, right from the beginning, right from when you start the game, you can go anywhere. Like literally you can run, you can walk, you can fly, whatever. You can go anywhere where you want from the beginning, and you can kill anything that you want right from the beginning. Doesn't matter if it's a bear or a fucking whatever. You can kill anything in that game right from the beginning, like with your hands, with a pistol, whatever. If you're skillful enough, you can do it. But in this game, you are level 1, you start out as level 1 or level 0, whatever, and there's level 20, level 30 things in the game that fucking murder you. So you literally go there and they kill you with one single bullet. I mean, that's a little bit ridiculous, to be honest. So that's another thing that I don't like about the game, to be honest. Another thing, and this is always a criticism that I have with the games, is the fact that if loot disappears in a game, if you have a game where loot disappears, then I immediately dislike your game. Why the fuck do developers still do this? They make loot still disappear. I totally get it that they do that sometimes in certain games to make like bodies disappear. Like for instance, you kill a guy and then his body will disappear after a while. Like for instance, Dying Light does this pretty well. If you've played Dying Light before, you will know what I'm talking about. You kill a guy and the body disappears, but his loot stays there. His loot actually drops down on the floor and his body disappears, so you can still go and loot the loot from his body. And yet this game doesn't do that. This game, when you kill a guy, he drops kind of like money. It's money / experience points, basically, that almost all of the guys in the game drop when you kill them. And that disappears after only a couple of seconds. Like literally, it's seconds. And if you don't pick it up, it's gone. It's like literally it disappears. So that's a huge problem that I have with the game. That and the fact that crafting materials also disappear. So you can run around, you can shoot stuff, you can shoot crates open. You will see actually in the gameplay that I'm showing you. You can shoot a crate and a bunch of shit pops out of the crate. And if you don't pick it up within a couple of seconds, it's gone. So it's really fucking ridiculous. I despise games where they make it so that loot disappears. I really don't like games like that. So that's one big criticism that I have with this game, to be honest. another really big problem is the fact that enemies spawn out of nowhere. Like, literally they spawn behind you, in front of you, on top of you. They don't give a fuck. They spawn wherever they want, and they spawn out of nowhere. So I will put some footage on the screen right now that will demonstrate that fact. I have an ability that can show enemies through walls, like literally you can see them through walls. So you can see guys from very far away. Yet the ability is fucking useless because enemies spawn right on top of you, like literally right on top of you sometimes. Sometimes they spawn just around a wall. So what's the fucking point of putting an ability in the game which allows you to see enemies from a long distance away through walls and stuff if they're going to spawn right on top of you? That's really so fucking infuriating. A lot of times enemies spawn right on top of you, right next to you, right behind you. I mean, you just cleared the area. Like literally you use your ability to see any enemies, and this ability can actually see enemies from very far away, like very, very far away. And they just fucking spawn right next to you or right behind you and absolutely murder you. So that's really something that I hate about the game. The fact that there's absolutely no consistency. In an open world game, if you've killed things right next to you, then there shouldn't still spawn things right fucking next to you. That's like playing Far Cry 5 and 2 bears just spawning right next to you. I mean, that makes fucking zero sense. Fortunately, that is not the case with Far Cry 5. Fortunately, in Far Cry 5 that does not happen. But it fucking happens in this game. Many times enemies will spawn right on top of you, right next to you. So yeah, those are the biggest problems that I have with the game by far. There are a couple of smaller issues with the game that I will quickly run through with you, and those are some enemies are immune to bullets, so that's pretty self-explanatory. In a game where you literally shoot fucking everything, it would be pretty idiotic to have enemies that are immune to bullets, wouldn't you agree? Well, Bethesda didn't give a fuck. There are actually enemies in this game that are completely immune to bullets, so yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Another small problem with the game is that there are not enough guns in the game. First off, there's not any sniper rifles in the game. I mean, in an open world game, like for instance Far Cry 5, you would expect there to be sniper rifles, and there are actually sniper rifles in Far Cry 5, but not in this game. There are no sniper rifles in this game at all, and that's pretty idiotic in an open world game, to be honest. And in addition to that, there aren't enough guns. There's really very few guns in this game. Honestly, they could have added 4 or 5 additional guns just to make the gun variety in the game a little bit better, because it's quite honestly very stale in the game currently due to the lack of weapons and weapon variety. And then the game does have a talent tree, kind of a skill system unlock point kind of a thing, but unfortunately you are forced to buy certain skills. So what's the point of having an RPG first person shooter game when they are going to force you to do certain things? They force you to buy certain skills. That's pretty idiotic, to be honest, especially in a game that claims to be RPG. The whole thing about the RPG is they're supposed to allow you to play your character the way that you want, to customize and just really play the game that you want, customize your own gameplay experience. And yeah, they actually force you to spend your talent points in a certain way in this game. And then certain activities in the game, there's a bunch of activities, like really just a whole bunch. You can liberate camps, you can destroy camps, you can rescue people, a whole bunch of stuff. And actually a bunch of those activities don't give any loot and they don't give any rewards. So no loot, no rewards, no nothing for doing a bunch of activities in the game. That's pretty disappointing, to be honest. Since you do an activity, you actually spend the time in the game and then you get absolutely fucking nothing. And then waypoints just randomly disappear. Like, you actually have a waypoint system in the game that you can highlight certain areas on your map, and those waypoints just disappear. Like, literally, you will highlight an area or a town and you will be driving towards it or running towards it and it just randomly disappears. Literally, you just lose your waypoint, which honestly is pretty infuriating, since if you don't remember where you put your waypoint initially, like if you did it a couple of minutes ago for instance, then you're screwed. You don't remember where you put your stuff at all. Another problem with the game is the fact that the radar skill, you actually get a radar skill in the game. The radar skill doesn't work. It's really broken, to be honest. So yeah, that's another problem with the game. And then the final problem that I have with the game is the fact that the game limits the crafting materials to only 100. So you get crafting materials in the game and they literally limit the amount of crafting materials that you can carry to 100. So that's really irritating. I hate games where they limit the amount of stuff that you can carry. I mean, sure, weapons and armor, that kind of stuff, you can limit that. That's absolutely fine. And obviously ammunition also, you can limit ammunition. But crafting materials like whatever, plants and scales and skins and stuff like that, don't fucking limit those kind of things, because a lot of people want to go out and collect a bunch of skins and a bunch of herbs and plants and stuff like that in order to then be able to craft a nice amount of stuff after that. But this game actually limits the amount of stuff that you can carry. So your only alternate choice is to sell those stuff. You can't even store it somewhere. You can only sell the excess stuff that you have. You can't store it or anything like that. So literally you have to sell your excess crafting materials. So yeah, to be honest, that's pretty much what I have to say about the game. The game costs $60, which is a lot. It's not worth it, to be honest. If you're looking for a pretty good open world first person shooter game like Rage 2, then why don't you just buy Rage 1? Like, literally buy Rage 1. Rage 1 is currently, I don't know, $10, $15. It's really quite cheap, to be honest. It was released like almost 10 years ago, but to be honest, Rage 1, it's a pretty damn good game. Certainly worth $10 or $15. Absolutely worth $10 or $15. Unlike Rage 2. Rage 2, to be honest, I wouldn't recommend that you pay for it, much less play it. It's not a really good game, to be honest. Rather go and play Rage 1. It's a pretty good open world first person game, and it's really disappointing to see how much or worse of a game Rage 2 is compared to Rage 1. I mean, it's almost 10 years later after they released Rage 1, almost 10 years, and they obviously have a bigger budget than what they had with Rage 1, and yet it's a worse game, to be honest. So yeah, unfortunately Rage 2, not a very good game, and I don't recommend that you play the game. So yeah guys, that's pretty much it. Thanks a lot for watching, and I'll see you next time.